We've a lot to get on with today. Items that need to be attended to, issues that need to be addressed, topics. Oh, topics. We've got lots and lots of topics. We're positively booming to the seams with topics. We've got topics coming out of. This thing here. What we got here? It's a packet of toilet rolls, half used. Now, don't panic. Doesn't mean the used ones are not in the packet. They're being removed. They were removed before they were used. And then, well, I assume they were either used or put in readiness for use, in further readiness. I mean, they're ready. The ones that are still in the pack are completely ready to use. But after they spend a while in the pack in here, they go into a more advanced position closer to the bathroom, whereby they're next in line to be used. It's like if you're queuing for a fast food drive-through. There's a long queue for the first few minutes. You're in a position whereby you're just queuing for the first window and you're several places behind. There's nothing going on. But at some point you get to a position in the queue where you're at the first window and you've placed your order, and then you're told to move on, and then you're queuing for the second window where you either give them your money or collect your food. And at that point, you're the equivalent of where this packet of toilet rolls goes when it's next in line to be used. It goes from this spare room into some sort of toilet roll holder in the bathroom, basically. And so that toilet roll holder in the bathroom is, in my estimation, comparable to the spot just after you pass the first window and you're queuing for the second window. That's where it would be. Or maybe you're at the second window waiting for your food. I suppose that's the nearest thing. Either would work. Either at the second window waiting for your food, or I suppose at the second window waiting to pay for your food. Would that work? No, to pay for your food would be... No, that's before you buy the toilet rolls. I don't know. I suppose you can overthink of some of this stuff. Suffice to say, there's a half-used packet of toilet rolls in here, but the used ones aren't in it. Strictly speaking, I shouldn't be calling it half-used. I suppose I can call it a half-used pack because half of them have been used and they're elsewhere. If I call it a pack of half-used toilet rolls, that's a different thing altogether. If it was a pack of half-used toilet rolls, then you'd be quite right to call the authorities and have something done about me. I shouldn't be living here in a house with responsibilities, I suppose. Well, what do you want to do with me? Put me away somewhere? Fucking hell. I'm not out to inaccurately describe the state of a packet of toilet rolls in my spare room, a big thing where you try to figure out whether you should report it. No, everything doesn't have to be... You're like that. You know what you remind me of? I remember about 10 years ago, one day I was on Twitter and I happened to mention something about my cats, about them going outside. And some fella 6,000 miles away on the far side of another continent decided to give out to me for letting my cats outside. He said it's very dangerous. So I said, excuse me, you're on another continent in another country. You know nothing about where I live or the roads around my house, if any. For all you know, I could be living in a field out the middle of nowhere where there's nothing there except cats frolicking everywhere chasing after sheep. You know nothing about where I live. So I got an apology out of this fella and then I got on with my day. That was about 10 years ago. That's what you're like when you're judging me silently about my toilet roll status. That's what you're doing. You've decided, this fella's on the internet. I'm going to judge him. He says he's got this half-used packet of toilet papers. That's disgusting. Well, no, it's not. It's only disgusting if I fail to... No, I want to say it's only disgusting if I fail to properly convey the fact that it's a half packet of toilet rolls and there's no used ones in it. But even if I fail to convey that fact, it's still not disgusting. I've just inadvertently conveyed the idea that it's disgusting and you've picked me up on that. That doesn't make it disgusting. That just makes it a miscommunication. I failed to describe it properly. And that's okay. I'm not a professional narrator here. I'm not a professional storyteller. You're not paying me for this. If anything, I'm paying you for this. I'm paying to put this thing up on the internet and try and promote it and get it to you. So I should be demanding a refund from you if you're not enjoying it. That's what I should be doing. I should be demanding a refund from you because you failed to be an appreciative audience that I've paid for somehow. So there you go. So maybe you should just keep that to yourself if you don't mind from now on. It's not for you to judge me. Uh, so now there you go. Anyway, as I say, we've a lot to get on with today. Items that need to be attended to, issues that need to be addressed, topics. Oh, topics. We've got lots and lots of topics. We're positively booming to the seams with topics. We've got topics coming out of this packer of this bullets. I dropped one of the toilet rolls on the floor. It's okay though. It's dropped on its edge. If you drop it on its edge and you pick it up within 5 seconds, that's the rule. It's not a problem. So let me just make sure it doesn't lead to any further problems here. There we go. I don't think I like this brand. I've been thinking about our toilet roll brands lately. I think we're falling into it. Oh no, wait, it's Kitten Soft. No, that's bad. That's fine. I hadn't realised we had Kitten Soft in the house. I haven't been happy with her toilet roll quality lately. I hope it's not that it's Kitten Soft I've been using and that they just changed the quality, because that would be rather disappointing. That is my favourite brand of toilet roll. And it's not because of the cat connection. No, I just find it to be quite a reliable paper. I find it to be quite a reliable toilet paper. It's just the right amount of everything. Doesn't block your toilet the minute you use more than 3 squares. And it also doesn't do other stuff that I'd rather not describe here. So no, I've always been quite happy with Kitten Soft. But my wife has been doing the shopping lately, and I had assumed she was getting a different brand. That was the problem. But no, I'm worried now. Maybe they've changed the quality of Kitten Soft so it's no longer acceptable. I'll have to review that at some point. Anyway, on with the show. Into your head. 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 Two cats walk into a bar. One of the cats goes straight up to the bar counter and says, "Hello, can I have a pack of your finest?" "Oh, I didn't mean to say a pack. It's not a shop. What would you buy in a pub that comes in packs?" No, that's ridiculous. What am I going to do? Buy a pack of prairie dogs in a bar? No. They probably don't even do takeout. No, I meant, can I have a pint of your finest Guinness, please? And the man behind the bar says, "Are you sure you weren't about to ask for a pack of cigarettes? Because that's something we sell in packs here. I'm probably not supposed to say it. You're not allowed to publicise your cigarettes anymore. You have to keep them in a box under the floor where they can't be displayed, and make damn sure to Christ as hell that they don't have anything that looks like a brand name on it. Just have a picture of someone's dead foot that's falling off because they've been smoking through it or something." And the cat says, "Why would somebody be smoking through their foot?" And the barman says, "Well, that's a good question. I would imagine if someone perhaps they were an amateur explorer and they'd been up Mount Everest a couple of times and they'd lost a few toes due to frostbite, as people often do up there. And when they came back, they were told, 'Oh, that foot's not going to be there much longer. You might as well just wear it out, use it for wherever you want, because we're going to have to take that foot off eventually. So you might as well just use it up, wear it into the ground.' And if that's the case, if you're a smoker, you might decide, 'Oh, I'm going to smoke through my foot for now. I'll smoke through my foot. It's going to be removed eventually anyway. I might as well get some use out of it. And that'll save my throat and my windpipe for a year or two, because I'll be doing all the smoking through a hole in my foot.' And the cat says, 'Why would they have a hole in their foot? Because they've lost a few toes to frostbite. How does that work?' And the man behind the bar says, 'Well, I suppose they'd make a hole, wouldn't they? They'd make a hole. It's a lot better than what a lot of smokers end up having, which is an artificial hole made in their windpipe. And maybe they'd get that done in their foot, because the medical science would agree to that, because they'd say, 'Oh, you're going to lose the foot anyway. You might as well use it as an express bypass to protect your throat and windpipe and everything else from the smoke. Direct inhalation through your foot.' And the cat says, 'You don't know what you're talking about at all.' And the man behind the bar says, 'I know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about smoking through your foot. That's what I'm talking about.' And you don't even have a foot, do you? You're a cat. And the cat says, that's a good point. I do indeed not have a foot. I have four paws. They're pretty much the same thing as feet, aren't they? I mean, they serve the same purpose. I know you don't claw away at things with yours, but you do with your hands. You have two hands and 2 feet, and I have four paws, and I use my four paws for pretty much the same thing as you use your feet. Why does it matter to you that they're why does any of this matter to you? Why does any of this matter to you, barman? I mean, for Christ's sake, most barmen would be perfectly happy to go and just quietly serve me and not enter into a conversation unless I invited it. I mean, you've enough to do in your job. You're sitting here for 8 hours. Everyone who's sitting at the bar expects you to be their personal friend, conversing with them while you're trying to get some work done. No, you don't want that, do you? Of course you don't. And the barman says, you're talking to me now. And the cat says, indeed I am. I'm talking to you now. But I'm a cat. I'm providing entertainment for you. I'm a talking cat. At the moment, you're having one of the most fascinating experiences you're ever going to have in your life. You'll tell this to your grandchildren 5 years from now. And the man behind the bar says, how am I going to have grandchildren 5 years from now? My youngest child is 2 years old. And the cat says, oh, that's right, I forgot. You have a longer life cycle than cats. Oh, okay, well, you'll be telling it to your grandchildren in 15 years' time. Will that be long enough when your youngest is 17? Surely to Christ you'll be a grandparent by then. I mean, you're not going to just leave it forever. Or is it considered a done thing now to wait till your 20s before you have grandchildren? It's fucking ridiculous. And the man behind the bar says, you don't understand, cat. There's a lot more to raising a child as a human being than raising a kitten. You can't be just churling them out of your body every few months, every time you have a meeting with a stray cat. You can't be just pouring out kittens all day, every day. No. If you have that, we'll end up having... You want a planet that's full of people? And the cat says, I suppose I don't. But why does that bother me? I don't own any planets. You're not going to be filling up any planet I own with people. You're going to be doing it to your own planet, and I'll be long gone by then. By the time you're a grandfather, I'll probably be dead and buried. Now, my own grandchildren, they might be still around, but I don't care about them. I'm a cat. I'm only paid to care about my kittens for the first few weeks of their life. Then I'm paid to shun them away. I tell them, get out of my sight. I don't want to see you ever again. You're no son of mine. Usually what I do after a month or two, I like to make it entertaining for my owners. So instead of just shunning my kittens, I get out my harmonica and I go, you're no son of mine. You're no son of mine. Now, if it's a daughter, I have to find something else to sing. Though not necessarily. I could still go, you're no son of mine to a daughter, and it would be completely accurate. It just wouldn't effectively convey the fact that I'm disowning them completely. It would just say, you're not my son, you're my daughter. And what would that achieve? Very little. It might be entertaining for my owners, I suppose, but that's about it. So no, I'd have to come up with... Someone needs to come up to an alternative to that Genesis song. You know, the one that goes, you're no son of mine. You're no son of mine. And the barman says, I thought you said there was a harmonica involved. And the cat says, oh, there often is, but it's over there. I don't want to reach over him. I'm nice and relaxed here, sitting back in my chair, just the right position from the microphone. I don't want to go rooting over there for my harmonica. The box on the table there where I keep it, it's overflowing with things at the moment because I've been messing around with things. If I went and reached over now, everything would fall on the floor and it would just annoy me. So no, it's going to be a cappella Genesis for the day. You're no son of mine. You're no son of mine. When you got up in the morning and I left you behind, and you're no son of mine. And the barman says, for a cat who's probably no more than 15 years old, it's quite surprising that he would be familiar with the songs of Genesis, a prog rock outfit that existed in the 60s. And the cat says, no, I think you'll find the no son or mine thing is from their later era, the 90s or 2000s, when they're doing all that pop shit. Where basically, they were basically just an extension of Phil Collins's solo career. He'd come up every couple of years and he'd say, oh, I've done a solo thing now. Time to do another fucking Genesis album. Here's one. I have a thing about how I wish it would rain down. I'll save that for my solo thing. I'll do another one. Oh, I have this one. Here's a good one. I have this thing where we go on about how we can't dance. And we all walk around doing this dance thing, except it's walking and we're swinging our arms. It'll be epic. People will be talking about it 20 years from now. They'll say, oh, that's where they finally lost it, they'll say. And then we'll do this other thing where I go, oh, Jesus, he knows me and he knows I'm right. Been talking to Jesus all my life. Jesus, he knows me and he knows I'm right. Been talking to Jesus all my life. And the barman says, what the name of Christ did you just do? And the cat says, oh, sorry about that. I absent-mindedly picked up my Apple Pencil and I kind of tapped it against the microphone. Now, that part wasn't quite so absent-minded because I just thought, I might as well try bashing this against the microphone, a bit of percussion. Now, I don't know if it'll come out in the final edit. So if anyone's wondering what I'm talking about here, what the barman is asking me about, he was asking me about he heard 3 taps against the microphone. I was hitting the microphone with an implement known as an Apple Pencil that I keep nearby here. And the barman says, who in the name of Christ are you talking to? And the cat says, oh, I'm talking about anyone who hears this. I presume when you have a conversation in a bar, you have some sort of a black box like you do in a plane that records everything through the whole night. So if there's an incident, it's a bit like with a plane crash. If there's an incident, you have a recording of all the data and voice recordings from that night that the cops can go back over, as long as you don't delete it. And the barman says, are you talking about the security camera? Because that doesn't record individual conversations like this. That would be ridiculous. And the cat says, no, I'm talking about the black box. You have a black box, surely. A black box. And it's not. And more importantly, you have something inside the black box that records everything. And the barman says, I do in my arse. What are you talking about? And the cat says, I'm talking about the black box. The black box. I could try to... I know I'm illustrating things through songs today. I don't know, can I find this way to illustrate that by song? Oh, Black Betty, Bob Malam, will that work? And the barman says, no, I get the idea that you're talking about a black box. You don't need to express that through song. But no, there's no black box in a fucking bar, except maybe if it's a bar in the sky in one of those 787 jumbo jets that have a bar. But do they even have bars? I don't think so. I very much doubt it. You sometimes hear, we've invented a new plane that has an upstairs, and the upstairs is a big, huge lounge. But then when you look into it further, you just find, they filled up the lounge with passengers. It's all full. It's not like you can wander around, take an empty table up in the lounge. I presume that's the case anyway. Be rather annoying if it's not the case. And actually, it's wishful thinking on my part to think that that's not the case. I like to think that the first class section of a plane, which I'm never going to see the inside of, I like to think that that section is not as luxurious as people imagine it to be, and that we're not missing out on much. I know that's the case with trains, because I've been on trains where I've accidentally sat in the first class section. And the only difference between it and the rest was you had a seat on your own and there was a fancy lamp there. Everything else looked exactly the same. Then a ticket inspector comes along and says, hello, you know you're in the first class section. And you go, how in the name of God would I know that? It looks exactly the same as everything else. And of course the ticket inspector then says, yes, I get that a lot, but get out now. And you go, certainly, sir, I'll get out now. And that's what happens there. And the cat says, I don't know why you're so against me going, oh, Black Betty, something, to give over the idea of me talking about a black box. And the man behind the bar says, firstly, I know you don't realise this when you're doing it initially, but it actually comes across accidentally a lot more vulgar than you originally intended. In fact, I mean to think you realise that, and that's why you're doing it. mean, you're laughing while you're singing it. What does that tell you? Even the original singer of that song wasn't laughing while they were doing it, unless perhaps they did 85 takes in the studio and there was only the 86th one that they managed to do without laughing. They went, oh, Black Betty, something had a child, bam malam. And then they had a black box. The black box was in the back of the aeroplane. It was recording everything that went on in the bar. And the cat says, you're a gobshite. You're a fucking gobshite. And the man behind the bar says, now, why do you say that? And the cat says, oh, I didn't have anything else to say, so I thought I'd just insult you. It's kind of what I do here when I've nothing else to do. The alternative is to go and hunt you down. And I'm not a real wild cat. I've been tamed through breeding, so I'm not going to hunt you down and scrape your face off. Unless you provoke me too much in a way that I can use in court. I can't reasonably argue in court that I scraped you because gobshite, I scraped you to death. Although now that you mention it, cats are above the law. We don't get hauled into court for stuff like that. Although now that you mention it, we do get taken into custody and put into some hellhole cat prison for animals. I think I'll try and stay on the right side of the law, if you don't mind. I'm getting a fucking cold sore. For Christ's sake, how am I getting a cold sore? It's nearly the 1st of June. It's not cold sore season. For Christ's sake. And the barman says, I didn't know cats got cold sores. And the cat says, I know, that's why I'm bringing it up. I'm telling you something you don't know. Thought you might be interested. And the barman says, I am interested. That's why I replied, I didn't know cats got cold sores. I was making a conversation out of it. And the cat says, well, it's not much of a conversation. If you don't mind me saying so, it's not much of a conversation at all. Very little of a conversation. It's so much little that I'm picking up my phone absent-mindedly here and looking at it to see if there's anything happening. There's nothing happening. Nothing happening at all. What's that song? There's that song as well. Nothing ever happens. Nothing happens at all. The needle returns to the end of the song and they all carry on like before. And we'll all be lonely tonight and lonely tomorrow. And the barman says, now why in the name of God do you bring that up, that miserable, depressing song? Probably no one's ever heard of it. It's some Irish thing. And the cat says, well, I was about to get to the part where there is a thing where the barman in the song goes, gentlemen, time please, you know I can't serve anymore. And the barman says, so you're trying to get me to stop serving, is that right? And the cat says, no, I was trying to entertain you by making a song that might somewhat include you in it. And the barman says, I don't need a song to do that. I don't need a song that reminds you about my work duties, for Christ's sake. You think people who go into offices go home and do a song about typing? They do not. Well, except your one who did. Working 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. Although, did she work in an office? I don't know if that was stated. Wasn't that from some movie, though? I don't know. I presume in the movie they make it clear whether or not it was an office or something else. She could have been working 9 to 5 as a bus driver, perhaps running school buses in the morning and evening, just after 9 and just before 5, or running a few bus services to the local clinic for old people, that sort of thing. I don't think there's very many bus drivers who have the privilege of working 9 to 5 every day with no late nights or early mornings. Not to say working at 8:30 would count as an early morning. It wouldn't. Anyone who works 9 to 5 gets up at 7 o'clock at the latest. I remember at one point I was leaving my house at 4 to 6, and that was for a 9 to 5 thing. So when the cat says, that's not really the point, is it? That's not the point at all. And the barman says, what's not the point at all? And the cat says, it doesn't really matter. Do you want me to tell you something that's not the point? And the barman says, well, yes, if you're claiming that that's not the point, I want to know what it is that you're claiming is not the point so I can decide whether or not I concur. And the cat says, well, I'm saying it's not my point. It's not for you or anyone else to concur whether or not it's my point. I decide whether it's my point or not. And the barman says, well, I suppose that's true. That's a good point. And the cat says, that's not for you to say. I'll decide whether it's a good point or not. And the barman says, no, actually, no, that's not true. You can decide whether or not that's your point, but you don't get the monopoly on deciding on whether or not it's a good point. In fact, arguably, it should always be someone else who decides whether or not you've made a good point. Because you can't be impartial on that. You can decide whether you can decide fully whether that's your point or not, but you can't decide whether it's a good point or not. Other people get to say that. Unless you never expressed the point, I suppose. So in that case, then yes, I suppose. I wouldn't advise that. If you're coming up with points and never sharing them and just judging them in your brain to be correct and good, that's not a healthy way to go. That's how you end up only mixing online in people in their same bubble as you. If you're making points just to yourself in your mind, you're in a bubble of one. You never get exposed to any dissent or disagreement or alternative ideas. That's not healthy at all. And the cat says, do you realise most cats don't talk, so the only way we have to express our points is inside our brains to ourselves. Most of us don't have the privilege of being able to share them with someone else and find out what they think. So it's perfectly natural for me to do that, to just express my points to myself in my brain and have only me judge whether it's a good point or not. And the barman says, oh, that's a good point, I suppose. And the cat says, can I punch you in the face just for entertainment? I have nothing against you. You seem like a reasonably good fella. I just want to punch you in the face just for fun. Because this segment's been going on 22 minutes now. It's going to run into the ground eventually, unless we do another Genesis song. Will we do another Genesis song? And barman says, no, we will not. And the cat says, follow you and I'll follow me. All these something, will you follow me? And the barman says, at least do one from the Peter Gabriel era. And the cat says, I don't know any Genesis songs from the Peter Gabriel era. Even if I did, I wouldn't. People claim to like the Peter Gabriel era of Genesis more, but if you ask them to sing a song from that era, they can't. They can sing one of the Peter Gabriel songs from the 90s, and they're not even his best to do. They do that shit where he's going on about a sledgehammer and stuff. No, that's ridiculous. Go and listen to his best work from the 2000s or whenever he did that other stuff. You know the other stuff. The other stuff where he's going on about women and stuff and about saving the world and about that fella in Africa. All that stuff where he did all those worthy songs. Don't go claiming that you like his era of Genesis, though. You don't remember anything about his era of Genesis. And Peter Gabriel spent his Genesis years inside a mask. He was going around on stage in a mask, not like the one on the movie The Mask. He was in more ridiculous stuff than that. He'd go around in cloaks and masks and he'd barely sing. That's probably why we can't remember any of his songs. I couldn't name a single song that Peter Gabriel sang with us. So now there you go. And I don't mind saying so. Well, normally I don't mind saying so because I'm a cat. And when I say something like that, I only say it to myself in my head. So it doesn't cause me any embarrassment. Unfortunately now, as a talking cat in this instance, I do mind saying it because other people can hear me. I must remember that. And the barman says, are we done here? And the cat says, I think we probably are. I think we're probably done here. And the barman says, that's great. That's great.
Into your head.
This is an interlude to today's episode of Into Your Head Podcast Hello. Today's episode of Into Your Head Podcast Hello. Well, it's well underway at this stage, and this is just another segment. We won't fool ourselves with that crap. How being an interlude. No, if it was an interlude, the show would stop and we'd be doing something else here. Like, I don't know, going off and not doing a show. I'd probably, if this was a proper interlude, I wouldn't be recording it. I'd be gone off somewhere. I may be going, maybe I'd go and watch some television, which I wouldn't because I don't watch television. I watch internet programs on a tablet shoved in front of my face sometimes, but I don't watch television. Television is for you old people. Television is for... The only reason to watch television, I'll tell you this now, I'll tell you this once and I'll never tell you again. The only reason to watch television It's because I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of any reason you'd watch television. Why would you watch television? Television can watch itself. It's more than capable of watching itself. It repeats itself ad nauseum. Every second program now is a program about an old television program. Says, here's some stuff about a program everybody used to like in the 1970s. It's very good. We're going to have a cast reunion. And it's more of, to be honest, it's more of a casket reunion at this stage. But no, we'll have a cast reunion. We'll have your man, your one from Friends, and the other one from Friends, and the other one from Friends, and your man from Friends, and the other man from Friends, and that other poor bastard from Friends, may he rest in peace. And we have a big long thing where we stand around chatting about stuff and we show clips. And we say, what was it like working as an actor for the show Friends? Was it fun? Was it fun collecting your paycheck? Was it fun negotiating for a €10 billion per episode fee for the last season? Was it fun getting your hair cut all the time? You probably have to get your hair cut all the time if you're in something like that, do you? I imagine you probably do. It has to be exactly the right length every time. When you go onto that program, your hair has to be the same length as it was last week, or else it has to be exactly a week's growth since the last week. And they probably don't want you to do that because when they rerun these things, they don't show them one a week. They do marathons where they do 6 episodes in a row one afternoon. They don't want you to have a week's worth of hair growth between 2 episodes that are going to have just 3 minutes between the end of one episode and the beginning of the next, because that takes people out of the fiction. That's like you're watching some movie about people going round in the desert and you feel some snow landing on you because there's, I don't know, some sort of ice cream machine exploded in the lobby or something and it's got into the air conditioning vent. So there's a cold, wet thing landing on your head while you're watching a thing about the desert. There's some fella on the screen, some fella who spent his whole life training to depict a fella crawling around in the sand in the desert looking like he's about to die from thirst. And that's going to be ruined for you because some ice cream thing exploded in the lobby and a bit of cold liquid landed on your head just as you were watching that. Although you could probably imagine that it was a bead of sweat and not a droplet of thing. But a bead of sweat wouldn't be that cold. Ideally, if the human body worked properly, a bead of sweat would be extremely cold. It would be the coldest substance known to man. It would be cold enough to cool you down with one droplet. But the whole point of your body overheating is that it's not able to produce cold sweat. It's only able to produce hot sweat. And that's why you wake up every morning drenched in sweat but still hot. And then drenched in more sweat because you're trying to cool down, but you're producing hot sweat, which is meaningless. Your body might as well be producing steam coming out of your arse and out of all your pores for all the good that's doing. See, maybe that would be better. They say when you go into one of those steam things in health centre, spa, wherever you call it, the steam things are supposed to be good for you. So if your body can produce steam on its own, then you wouldn't need to go to those at all. You would just produce the steam direct. Now, how would you do it though? You'd have to make sure you overheat. And wherever you're using to overheat, you will probably be producing steam anyway. So you might as well use that, save your body some energy, unless you want to use up energy because you're trying to lose weight or something. I don't know. I've never understood any of that stuff myself. Why would you go to a place where you sit in some steam on a roasting hot bench and then the steam gets up your nose and then gets exchanged for sweat droplets which come down out of your nose and look disgusting. They look disgusting. And you're doing this in public because you don't care what people see you doing. People see this stuff dripping out of your nose and out of your ears and out of your... Does sweat come out of your ears? I'm not sure now that I think about it. But I imagine it does if it's got nowhere else to go. I can't all... Because sweat pores are tiny. It's amazing you can fit a drop of moisture out through a sweat pore at all. It's like that thing in the Bible where they say it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. I think they say something like that. Well, it's also easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a droplet of sweat to get out through one of those tiny pores. It's no wonder you're always blowhead.
Are you going into your head?
Now, I know what you're thinking there. You're thinking, oh, I wonder what's happening there now with that thing that he just did. That thing that he just did, there was a bit much. Well, you'll have to be more specific, because for one thing, when I record these segments, I don't know which order I'm going to assemble them into in the final production. So you could be referring to anything. If whatever the proceeding was a bit much, I don't know what it was until I go back and listen to the end product, and then I know what you're referring to. If this is just an evergreen criticism, well then that's fine. That's fine. Just means the whole thing is a bit much for you, and that's okay. Everything isn't for everybody. If everything was for everybody, then we'd be living in a communist society where everything is for everybody. This fucking Apple Pencil here that I keep mentioning for no reason is for everybody. This is yours now. Well, that would explain why you have it attached to a piece of string. Like they used to in banks in the 1980s. They would put your pencil on a piece of string. They'd say, oh, I'll write this down now, and then I'll absent-mindedly put the pen in my pocket. I'm not stealing it intentionally, bank. I'm just absent-mindedly putting the pen in my pocket. But that's in fact what a responsible, organised person does. A responsible, organised person has their brain trained that after they use a pen or a pencil, they put it straight back into their pocket. A disorganised person doesn't do that, and that's why they end up losing every pen and pencil they have, and then they end up borrowing one off someone else's desk. And that's why you have to put a piece of string on your pencils, because of those people. It's not because of me, the person who remembers to put her back in my pocket. And even then, it's not a problem because it's on a piece of string. The worst that can happen is that I'll pull down the entire fixtures and fittings of the bank form filling area, which doesn't exist anymore. Oh wait, does it? I'm not sure. Do banks still have a form filling area? If they do, it's not as impressive as it used to be. I do remember a branch I went into lately. It does have a kind of a little shelf in the middle that you can stand and fill out forms at, but it's a really flimsy looking shelf. And the queue goes around in front and behind us, so you're rather exposed. I know you young people don't realise back in the 1980s, if you went into a bank, you get a huge desk that went along one side of the bank. You can stand there and fill in your forms. You get your withdrawal form or your deposit form or your transfer form. And you'd spend as much time as you like standing there writing your form very carefully. They were doing a transfer from one account to the other. You get a withdrawal form and a deposit form. So you'd have twice as much fun. It was great. You get a withdrawal form and you'd say, I want to take it out of this. I want to take with one hand and put it back with the other into this other account. I only realised quite late in that era that they did have credit transfer forms that probably would have done the same job. But no, you get a withdrawal form in one hand and a lodgement form in the other. And you go up to the bank teller then, who was behind the window, and you say, hello, I want to take with one hand and give back with the other. And then you say, I know at this point I'd normally hand over some cash to you, but as you'll see when you examine the forms, if you examine them in the right sequence, you'll see I'm having you take the cash out of one account and put it into the other. In fact, if you play your cards right, neither of us will have to handle any cash at all in this transaction. Now, if they were doing it right, of course, they'd find the cash somewhere and take it out and then put it back in. Nowadays, that's considered a bit OCD. If you actually handle cash in a bank, they'll say, what in the name of Christ is wrong with you? And they'll say, no, go learn how to use a computer. Anyway, there you go. I think I'll delete that last bit. I don't like that last bit. It's a bit much. It's also a bit too little because I'd have to explain further for it to make any sense. I'm not going to do that. So, note to self, delete the proceeding that almost got a bit much but not enough at the same time. We won't start a new segment though. We'll carry on and continue this here. Where was I going? The fucking cold sore has grown in the hour that I've been recording this show. This cold sore has emerged and grown into a rhinoceros. I think there's two now. I think I can feel two cold sores on my mouth now that weren't here when I started this show. What in the name of Christ? There's one there that I noticed half an hour ago and it's growing. And there's another one there. Look, you probably can't see it. I have it right up to the microphone. The other one, I can't really feel it. I can feel it's tender, but I can't feel a bump. The other one, no, I can feel a bump. I should probably go and put some cream on it. In due course, I'll go and put some cream on it. And then I'll go around with my face covered in cream for the rest of the day. And my wife will say, "Oh, did you have a cold sore by any chance?" And I'll say, "Yes. How did you know?" And she'll say, "Because your entire head is covered in pseudo cream. You fucking idiot. You fucking idiot." And she'll be right about that, except she won't say it because she's too nice to say something like that, especially out loud. If she suspects it's going to be repeated on a podcast, I'll end up listening back to several times during the editing process. No, she wouldn't do that to me because that would be disproportional to the slight ribbing that she was intending. She says this light-hearted comment, I listened back to it 10 times in the podcast, then it's going to have a disproportionate effect on me. So no, she wouldn't do that. I hope your other half wouldn't do that to you either. Or I hope your pets wouldn't do that to you. Or I hope your parents wouldn't do that to you. Or I hope your teacher wouldn't do that to you. Or I hope I wouldn't do that to you. Or I hope the Lord God Jesus Christ, or whatever the equivalent is in your religion or non-religion, wouldn't do that to you. I hope he just rained down tons of rain and war and famine on you, and hopefully have it not affect you directly. Hopefully you'd miss it by living in a different country or in a different century, so you avoid much of it, and you just end up spending your life playing with smartphones and listening to podcasts and stuff like that. I want that for you in your life. That's what I want. Once upon a time, there was a dog. A dog. A dog. Did I already do one of these? I'm not sure. Maybe I did. I definitely made reference to the dog thing during the two cats walk into a bar story. I started that segment as two cats walk into a bar, and the dog thing came up at some point. So no, it's okay. I'm not duplicating. Once upon a time, there was a dog. A dog. A dog. Basically a dog. And I'll just explain for new listeners again. This probably isn't going to be a story about a dog. And it's also not a rerun. This is just one of the ways I have to get going. That's kind of how it works. I do this thing to get going. I go, once upon a time there was a dog. A dog. Basically a dog. I don't mind admitting that part of the reason I do this particular opening for so many segments is that I enjoy it. I happen to enjoy going, once upon a time there was a dog. And I'll tell you, I'm enjoying it even more than usual today because I have a new pair of headphones that seem to be of superior quality. I've also bought a new microphone in here, so it sounds even better than usual to my ear. Mightn't sound as good to your ear because this has to be mixed down and turned into something that will fit into the internet through the cables. There's one thing the internet isn't designed for. It's me sending loads of recordings of me going, once upon a time there was a dog in their original quality. I suppose that's okay. You're a podcast listener, so you're used to that. You know how it works. If you weren't okay with that sort of thing, you wouldn't be a podcast listener. You'd go out and buy spoken word CDs. Oh, some brainy documentary on the television that you sit up and wait for because you don't understand you can record television now. Although, can you record television now? They don't have videotape recorders anymore. I suppose you can press a button. Nowadays, recording a television, if you still have a television, involves pressing a button whereby you ask your cable provider, do I have permission to record this program, please? Is this one of the ones that you allow me to record and keep on my device for 3 days and watch it once before it gets automatically deleted because I stopped halfway through and left it for a couple of days? That's what recording involves now. But you don't have that with podcasts. Oh, that reminds me. If you're a long-time listener of this podcast, if you're one of the handful of people who were listening to this before it went away for 7 years and came back last year, If you have old episodes of this podcast that are not up on the website, will you please let me know? I'd like to restore them. Please see IntoYourHead.ie/lost for details of what I'm missing. IntoYourHead.ie/lost. If you have old episodes of this podcast that are not currently on the website and feed, I've restored some lately. I found some. I went trawling through the Wayback Machine and I found bits of copies of my old website. I spent about a week doing detective work, tracing down old copies of my own work that had been copied and kept on something. It was quite rewarding, I suppose, but also a pain in the arse. Anyway, the point is, if you have old episodes of this crap, I'd like to put them back online. And even though they're shit, the old episodes of this program are all shit. Every single one of them without. I'm probably not really selling the idea now of getting you to return them to me. But no, actually now, let me put it this way. I have a new way to market this. I'll say the old episodes of this podcast are all shit. So if you have copies of them still, I'm doing a recall. If you sold a meat product and you found there was a problem with that batch, you do a recall. So I'm hereby doing a recall on previous episodes of this podcast from the old days that are of insufficient quality. You need to return them to me. You won't get a refund, but in lieu of a refund, I'll put them back up on the site so they're available for you to listen online again and they'll be in the feed. Will that work? There you go. That's ingenious. I've turned my podcast into the equivalent of a supermarket doing a recall of bad meat. Of course, by the time the meat gets back to me, it'll probably have got even worse. But at least you won't have eaten it. It'll just have stunk up the letterbox or something. There's probably some way you can transmit the meat to me in this instance through the internet. Because it's not really meat. It's just ones and zeros. Ones and zeros. I don't need you to produce a receipt, by the way, because I'm not a fucking arsehole supermarket. So there you go. IntoYourHead.ie/lost.